morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. I'm Joe Jaquint, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and our toll-free number, 800-951-0592, the website at allamericangold.com. And I hope you guys had a fantastic weekend, got out there, enjoyed yourself a little bit. The weather's starting to change. Yeah, it was a little cooler out there in the Valley of the Sun this morning. I actually didn't have the air conditioner on driving to work this morning. Had to turn the heat on a little bit. Fall's around the corner. Of course, we've got the election coming up. We got all kinds of economic data. We've got Wall Street rallying here as the just my opinion, right? The liberal bankers trying to help the Democrats out, but wait till the election's over. I think that's when things get very, very interesting. And as always on Monday, I've got my son Joey's with us from Northwestern Mutual. I've been encouraging you. I've been imploring you. Heck, I've even begged you guys, reach out to him. Make sure your portfolio is ready to go. And a lot of you out there, you may have a financial advisor, right? That hey, I know stocks, and I can do what Joey does, right? I'm going to move your portfolio around. I'm going to protect you from the high rates, but it has no idea what to do about tax planning. Maybe you've got, well, I've got my accountant. Your accountant is just going to tell you that you need more deductions or more write-offs. He can't help you do those things. Then you're like, well, what about inheritance? A lot of you worried about inheritance. Well, now you gotta have lawyers and other people involved. The great thing when you deal with Joey in Northwestern Mutual is he can bring all of those things to the table and do it all under one roof. So you don't have to talk to really 3 or 4 other professionals to really make sure you've got all your bases covered. Right, Joey?
No, that's exactly correct. We're like a one-stop shop. And the value we bring to all my clients, prospective clients, is that we're just open to having a conversation and establishing this relationship. There's a million things we do with people, but it's all about, hey, where are you at in your situation and what works best for you? And the tax planning strategies you mentioned, you probably have a CPA, a tax guy, and they're always talking about write-offs, this and that, but they're not introducing you to new vehicles that are tax efficient or ways to grow your money that are tax efficient. And then in terms of other financial advisors, yes, they're probably good at growing wealth, but they don't take into the facts like what happens when we retire. How do we withdraw from these funds and things like that? Or how are we achieving short-term goals with our investments? Maybe you're looking to put a new down payment on another house or things like that. And on top of it, we work extremely well with small business owners, actually setting up, a couple benefits for certain small businesses right now currently. And really what I've been doing recently is, a lot of business owners are looking to sell their business or plan for retirement through that. Have a conversation with my team and I. We have a big niche market in small business owners and how to sell our business and then what to do when we get those gains and that influx of money. How do we shelter that away into tax-efficient vehicles, and how do we make that work for us? There's just a multitude of things that we do for our clients. And it all just stems from starting a conversation and building up a relationship. A big thing about me and why I've joined this firm is we average 27 years with our clients, while the industry average is simply just 2.5 years. So that just means a lot of advisors are very transactional. They just want your investments to be rolled over, get that assets under management. Whereas us, we're showing you a plan. We're talking about philosophies and really what our goals are before we even recommend the transfer of funds. We just really take the time and the personal approach of chatting and getting to know our clients. And at the end of the day, you're not going to get charged a penny for our time. We generally just want to see if we can provide value for you in your current situation. So you can always reach me at my personal cell, which is 602-909-9048. Again, that's 888-909-9048. If you have any questions, anything financially, more than happy to chat and answer those for you. Just a call or text away.
Yeah, and you know, it's really, especially for all of us out there that, hey, we're in our late 40s, early 50s, early 60s, 70s, even some of you 80s, because you're talking about inheritance, or you're talking about I'm getting ready to retire, or, hey, I'm getting ready to sell my small business, or maybe you don't even know, you know what, I need to get ready, but I don't know how to get ready. And a lot of people don't realize this. As small business owners, the amount of tax liability you can be set up with if you don't handle it right.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't handle that tax gaming and planning for small businesses, you can really get hit pretty hard. There's a lot of cool and unique ways to set ourselves up for paying the least amount of taxes as possible. And one thing a lot of small businesses experience is maybe you have some employees, right, that are absolutely killing it, but they're constantly getting job offers from other people. How do we set up certain benefits that allow you to be more tax efficient and write off more things, you know, to keep these key employees? And there's multitude of things, the ways we do that, and it really just stems from us chatting and getting a conversation. I could talk about our small business planning for hours and the different things we do, but honestly, just a situation where you're at.
We're going to be right back with more with Joey. Don't touch that dial. Patriot Radio News Hour. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on a Monday. We got my son Joey with us, as we do every Monday. And, I mean, it's enough to really make your head spin when you sit there and you think about all the things you need to do. This is how hard they make it, right? To make sure that you can keep as much of your hard-earned money as possible. And, of course, a lot of people out there, you know, small business owners in particular, especially with what's been going on with the debts and the economy, and people talking about the need for the government to collect more revenue. I mean, Joey, they just came out with budget numbers. The United States government collected almost $5 trillion in taxes last fiscal year, and it was still nowhere close to enough.
No, and it never is close to enough. So what are they going to do? They're going to ask for more this next year, right? And then it's just going to keep adding up. And sooner or later, we're going to be spending all of our money in taxes. And it's all about mitigating that loss. The biggest expense any one of us are going to experience financially in our lifetimes is taxes. So how do we set aside money in these vehicles to make sure we're paying as little as possible, while at the same time still growing our money? And it's really unique the way we do this. And honestly, it just depends, you know, where you're at and what vehicles we should be utilizing to achieve these goals. Now, when you're entering retirement, you know, a lot of people are busy with growing their money in their early 30s, 20s, 40s, even 50s. But you're starting to get to that 50 age, 60 age, and you haven't talked about tax planning or ways to implement these things. I think that really should spark a conversation. At the very least. That way you can learn about these things. There's a reason why they don't teach us at school. There's a reason why they don't teach us on the news. It's because the government doesn't want you to know about how we can be paying as little taxes as possible. And that's where my team and I come in, is we come in, we do an analysis on you, and we come up with creative ways and put ourselves in your shoes. Say, hey, this is what I would do if I was trying to minimize my taxes. And it's really just a simple 45-minute conversation with us, and we'll probably ask for some information, and we'll continue to work and develop a relationship that I hope continues, you know, for the rest of my career and with you until retirement. The whole thing here is, how do we set up, you know, people for the future? And it all just stems from just having a conversation and a little bit of your time.
Yeah, and you know, you brought up that point, you know, as you're getting into your 50s, it's probably past due time to have those conversations. And you're right, that the realities are there's a ton of programs that the government likes to give out to their wealthy friends that a lot of people don't even know that is available to them. And at the end, it can cost people hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It really does, and it's alarming to see it on a daily basis when I'm chatting with people. And the rich, they take advantage of these things. So how do we show the average everyday person the exact same things that the rich are doing to continue this generational wealth? There's so many small little caveats we could be entering into to make sure that we're not paying these hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars as we enter retirement. I'm a big believer in we work for what we get for. So at the end of the day, why should we be giving all these huge lump sum amounts of money to the government when we could be putting it to use in different ways so that we don't have to be paying this huge expense? Between taxes and health care, those are going to be the biggest, most ridiculous amounts you'll experience in retirement. So how do we set ourselves up knowing that we have a plan in place and not have to worry about that big expense? Most people are withdrawing from their 401ks or their IRAs in retirement, and that's getting taxed as income. So how do we set it aside in different vehicles to where that's not taxed as income, and really you're reporting, only 60 grand you're making, whereas we're actually pulling out 200 grand from other buckets of money, right? It's a huge tax game, and it can get complicated doing it on your own. But when you have someone in your corner calling you up, setting meetings, holding you accountable to getting some information in, a lot of people see the value. And like I said before, it doesn't cost you a dime for a moment of my time or a moment of yours. We just need to start that conversation and relationship.
Yeah, and again, it's something where all of that extra money you save that can be used for your family, to have a better retirement or even leave a better inheritance for the kids and grandkids.
Exactly. Leave a better inheritance, legacy planning, and a huge part of it is estate planning and legal planning. Wills, trusts, attorneys, do we have those in place? We're about to get a big inheritance yet. Have we talked about how that money is going to be distributed between you and your other beneficiaries? And when that money comes, what vehicles should we be putting into to grow that money? Working with a couple people who have trust funds, and they're going to be inheriting millions of dollars in these upcoming years. So how do we put together a plan to do that tax efficiently, then also have our money grow for us and achieve the targets we want to hit? There's millions of things we do with our clients, and really it just depends on what do you want to do and where do you want to be. And, we just do an in-depth analysis, and we're super transparent in everything we do. And if you have a question about the market or where things are going, or you just simply wanted to chat about your own situation and see if I could be of value, I'm more than happy to do that. Just leave me a call, on my personal cell. That's 602-909-9048. Again, 602-909-9048. If I happen to miss it, leave me a voicemail or text, and I'll get back to you right away once I'm available.
Yeah, and if you guys forget that, you can always go out to the 1360 KHNC website, go to the sponsor page, and you'll see Joey's information there. Joey, always good talking to you. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll chat again next week.
Yeah, thanks. You too. Thanks for having me. I really enjoy it.
Jason, man, just, and again, you hear Joey talking. It's incredible the amount of things. It shouldn't be this hard, but this is what happens. I mean, we've got a jumbo-sized government, an IRS that's going to be super-sized plus tax, pardon the puns there, right? But let's face it, they're going to do everything they can to get as much money from us as possible.
That's right, Joe. That's right. And the way the markets have been looking through 2022, just not good, and it seems like there's a sell-off in everything going on. It's a tough times. It's tough times if you want to figure out where to put your money, and this is why you bring Joey on the show with us.
Yeah, and just keeping it safe. That's it. Listen, at the end of the day, you can buy more gold and silver if you've been really good with your money, right? And saving that money and protecting your assets. And, of course, this is the time. Listen, we haven't seen this really ever and what I'm talking about, because you can say, well, it's like the 70s, or it's like the dot-com bubble, or there's shades of the financial crisis, whatever it may be. But the realities are, Jason, we've never seen this type of money printing ever before. This was on a scale that, even for us, and Jason and I, this is what we do. These numbers are, it's even hard for us to quantify what they really did.
Yeah, Joe, it's funny. I was watching Wall Street. So that's a movie I don't think I've watched in decades. Even if I remember watching it, but I was watching it. It's Douglas and Sheen, and Sheen plays Bud. He's kind of like, he's Douglas takes him under his arm, and teaches him how to do insider trading, right? And in the movie, Charlie Sheen, Bud, the character, he buys a piece of property in New York. And this is 1985, so the movie is in 1985. And I didn't realize the interest rates were still high. He had to buy it at 10% interest. In 85, Joe. It's like, I thought the interest rates had dropped below that by 85, but they hadn't even dropped in 1985. So look at those rates in the 70s, Joe, during inflation, how high they went. And they didn't go away even into the roaring 80s, where people were just making all this money on Wall Street, right? They still had high rates. They didn't drop those rates till, I think, late 80s, right, Joe? I'd have to lean on you on that.
Well, because, listen, they wanted to drop those rates because they wanted to go into deficit spending.
Correct.
Really, when you look at America financially, right, the 80s was really the decade when all of the big borrowing started. And we stayed on that path. And again, so we're talking about the amount of money created. We're talking about they almost created $30 trillion out of thin air. I mean, think about it. The whole entire United States economy is $22 trillion. And they did this, Jason, in like 18 months.
That's right. That's right. In the movie 1985, Michael Douglas's character, Gecko, there, the United States economy is a $5 trillion economy. And I'm like, oof, boy, they've inflated that one, Joe. It's gone beyond that at this point. So that's what you were alluding to earlier. What was happening in the 70s is happening now, but they didn't have $31 trillion in debt for that 10% interest on that guy's mortgage. You can't do that now, Joe. You just, something will blow up, and it will blow up, I think, very soon.
Well, yeah, and you can see it in Wall Street right now. The big rally is on these hopes that somehow the Federal Reserve is going to be able to pause or slow down these rate hikes. Yet there's no relief from this inflation whatsoever. I mean, the fact of the matter is, on Thursday we're going to get the official Social Security cost of living adjustment. And it's going to be I think the best case scenario, I guess call it best case, is 8.7% increase.
That's a lot more money coming out of the government, so that's where the taxing has to come in. I mean, it is a catch-22, Joe. But where does this system have to go to so-called fix it and go out and push it down the river, so to speak? And it's a Ponzi scheme, and they have to keep adding for the Ponzi scheme to continue to work. So this is why the Great Reset is on our doorstep, Joe, because the Ponzi scheme that we're currently in is just not working. It's just like 1933. It's just like after World War II, and it's like 1971. They had to pull some tricks to fix what was broken, Joe. And this looks like the worst one ever.
Well, and again, I think the problem is as these rates continue to rise, things continue to break. We haven't seen the bad part of it yet. And I thought, hey, listen, October we're going to get that surprise. It's probably more like November, because the Biden administration has done a really good job of kind of rigging the deck, so to speak, to buy time to get through these elections. I think we're going to see a significant increase in energy prices. I think the fantasy that the Federal Reserve is going to stop or pause, I think those things are just that, pure fantasy. They're not going to stop or pause. They need to break it to get inflation, and forget about 2%. Just to get inflation to, say, 4%. We're going to need millions of people, Jason, to lose their job.
That's the goal. As they've stated it, Joe. They want people to lose. I mean, it's an insane world where the controlling financial arm of your country says we have to destroy jobs to fix the financial system, which is, Joe, here's the thing. Unfortunately, big mega corporations, when they cut the fat, which is firing a bunch of people, that just makes more profit for the guys at the top. That's what's going to happen. The rich will get richer. The poor will get poorer. The lords and peasants, Joe, we are headed for it, and there's nothing that I can see that's stopping it.
Yeah, and again, Friday we had a major intervention from the Japanese government on the Japanese yen. The yen was up to 152. They had such a huge intervention. It drove it all the way down to like 145. Jason, this morning, I just looked. It's back to 149. And again, there's only so much you can do before things really start cracking here, and we're closing in. We're 9 days away from the next 0.75% rate hike, which is going to add more fuel to the fire. 800-951-0592, just because we're getting some calls here, just some updates. Last week we ran a couple of different limited specials. Our Silver Eagle special that we had last week, that is gone. That is sold out. We had a special where you got a roll of 20 silver rounds and a 10th ounce gold eagle. That was $810. The rounds at $560. The gold eagle at $250. We only have 7 of those left. So if you want to take advantage of that, and again, the problem is the rounds, the 10th ounce, the silver eagle. Jason, these are all things that have been very difficult to get, and we just don't know. We don't have time frames on when more can be available. It's almost like we come in every day and hope that something pops up, but the realities are what the wholesalers are saying is, hey, maybe in November, hopefully something will pop up.
Yeah, I've been here in the Colorado office a little over 4.5 years, and Joe ships me stuff. The Arizona office, the ladies are shipping. They ship me stuff for this order, that order. This special or that special, and I call the customers in, and you can get it, right, Joe? You can get it, but the price that we're paying is so ridiculous, and because the difference between the spot and what you actually have to pay for it is such a wide gap. It's scaring away the smaller buyers, because I think the smaller buyers, Joe, just think, I ain't doing that. But why do I have a feeling at some point, and let's just say next year, let's just say after this election's over and things start tumbling hard, and I think Joe Biden starts filling the oil reserve up and making oil even more scarce, and we see maybe $200 a barrel oil, and you have chaos in Taiwan or in the Ukraine or whatever the emergency is, Joe. Why do I get the feeling that really quickly that spot price is going to catch up, to where we're having to pay for the and then it's even going to be harder to get. Here we are right now. It should be easy to get, and it's not easy to get, Joe. Somebody's buying it. Somebody's buying it, Joe. It seems like they're rigging it against the average guy. That's what it seems like.
And they're not buying little amounts.
No.
And again, I'm sitting here watching these things, and I just feel like absolutely. One, I think spot prices are going to be significantly higher. We know when that's going to start, right? As soon as the Fed slows down, the rally is going to come. When the Fed stops, the rally gets bigger. The problem is, I think, inflation. It's a lot of wishful thinking coming out of the TV. It's idiotic thinking. It's the same type of thinking when they were trying to tell us that inflation was transitory. And the problem that I see, Jason, is I actually see premiums getting worse, not better, because of the fact that when the rally starts coming, right, you get even more pressure on this market, and I think that's really going to see these premiums stretch out even further. I mean, right now, listen, we're coming to the end. We've only got the mint's going to stop minting here, in the next 30 days, 45 days to get ready for 2023. And again, I think that puts even more pressure.
Yeah, never mind the fact that it was just a couple of months ago. Somebody was buying every single thing they were minting over there. Remember that, Joe? Some big wig lady in Texas. We think it's Walmart.
She was buying 900,000 ounces a month. Something. I mean, almost 1 million ounces a month. It was crazy.
Yeah, and I don't think that makes it easier to get silver eagles, Joe. It makes it very difficult. And I think that the orders couldn't be filled, so they filled their order with junk silver or something else. They just to keep the amount of silver that they were buying, whoever this person was. I think a lot of this is going on. I think the pricing and these premiums above spot are causing the small guy not to get in. And Joe, there's a lot.
Let me give you an
lot
example
of selling.
That special that we got 7 left of those rounds at $560 for 20. Do you know that's $28? Do you know that is below cost for junk silver? Obviously, way below cost on silver eagles. I mean, that just gives you an idea of how big these premiums are right now.
Absolutely huge, Joe. When you're almost doubling the price of an ounce of silver over spot for a silver eagle, can you imagine if silver was actually at $30 and the premiums took it to $60 to buy it, Joe? I mean, that's kind of what you're saying, is that the premiums might get worse, and if you're essentially doubling it, Joe, and silver actually goes where it's supposed to go, which is go up. Yeah, you're gonna be paying a lot for an ounce of silver, Joe.
Get ready for this. So we've got gold's flat here, and I know Kitco's got it down a little bit, but it rallied in the aftermarkets last week. But gold's $16.50 right now, essentially flat from Friday. Silver's up about 8 cents here, $19.15. The Dow's up about 300 points because bad news. I think we're going to see a lot more of that because they need the news to be bad, because they need the central bank to stop raising rates. But these were survey numbers, so take it with a grain of salt. U.S. manufacturing, the Purchasing Managers Index, fell into contraction. This is the first time in several years, going back to the COVID, especially if you take out the COVID shutdown, this is the first contraction number in a while. They were expecting 51, and this is one of those numbers where 50 is like zero. Came in at 49.9, so barely below. And then the service sector, which, let's face it, as we know, the United States, we're a service economy, well below 46.6. They were expecting 49.5. So that, and I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but that was a pretty big miss. That actually got Wall Street to rally, Jason.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, Joe. How long will it rally? I really believe we could be in a cycle, Joe, like we've seen in 1968 and in 1929, where the markets went off their high and didn't come back for decades. I wonder if the Dow and the S&P ever get back to those highs we just saw earlier this year, Joe. I don't think so. I think we may be in a very long, grinding, depressive state, like you said, the double depression, Joe. I don't see.
Well, and again, I think rates are going to be a lot higher than people think, and then it's hard to grow. And then, of course, obviously, the amount of debt, servicing that debt, really starts becoming very burdensome. And there's talk everywhere. If you really look around, there's people whispering about are our treasury markets going to seize up, and you're like, it's so hard to imagine. This is a 10, $11 trillion market. I mean, it's huge. And imagining that kind of money seizing up, again, it's one of those things where things aren't right. Patriot Radio News Hour will be back after the break. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here, and just to kind of give perspective, food at home, food prices at home are up 13% year over year, and it's going to be even worse than that. Turkeys. My wife only wanted to talk about turkeys this weekend and how much more turkeys are going to be for Thanksgiving. But Jason, this is what I'm talking about. They're talking about, the Fed pausing or slowing down, and yet food prices, at-home food prices up 13%. How can this be? And again, it doesn't match. So either we're just going to give up and live in this hyperinflated world, or we've got to have rates going way higher than where they're at now.
Yeah, what was that word they used in 2021? That there wasn't is it's going to be temporary, right, Joe? It's transitory.
Transitory.
And then they said they would have rate hikes for hey, we'll start with a few rate hikes. We'll only go up to 2%. Remember that? Then it's like, well, we'll get it up to 4 or 5% by the end of 2022. Why do they seem like they're lulling people to sleep, just trying to keep everyone calm, Joe? It seems like every time they talk what they're going to do about the inflation and interest rates, the only thing that they seem to be kind of shy on is how far they're going to go. That seems to be the kind of they don't want you to talk about how long or how far. They don't really want to talk about that. Everything else, hey, we're going to stop inflation, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. They actually do. The Fed does what they say they're going to do, Joe, most of the time.
Yeah, and I haven't heard them say anything of the sort. The issue is, and here's what the markets really know. Can we be honest? They're like, hey, man, I don't know how many more of these rate hikes the market can take before, whether it's Japan or the UK, Europe, our own treasury markets. And the problem is, Jason, once something breaks, it's kind of like Katie by the door, isn't it? It's that, and think about the house of cards, because this is kind of the analogy. You build this house of cards, and all of a sudden, one little corner, all of a sudden that card starts to bend and slip, and next thing you know, Jason, it cascades, and the whole thing comes crashing down.
That's right, Joe. I mean, I can't remember the exact dates, but I remember Russia a couple of times over the last 25 years or so, 30 years back to when they broke away, the wall came down. But they had a couple of rate hikes where they went up like 12% in one day, or like 8 or 9% in one day, to stop what I think was going to be, because they had some really bad inflation in the 90s and the early 2000s to really fix their economy. The fact that the Fed won't do this, or is not doing this, and is doing these 75-point rate hikes over and over again, there could be another one coming up. I wouldn't be surprised, Joe, if the inflation is just staying ahead of this, and we could see rate hikes. I really do believe we could see rate hikes deep into 2023, maybe till the end of the year. Nobody wants to say it, but remember, they also said transitory, didn't they?
Yeah, and again, I the only reason why I don't think that's going to be the case, because I think they'll have broken it before then. That's what I think. I think they're going to raise rates until it's broken. And then the problem is that wishful thinking that, hey, we just need a few million people to lose their jobs. Right? Next thing you know, instead of a few million, it's 20 million. And we're and then we're really into the woods, because that's the only way we're going to bring this type of inflation down is demand destruction. I've been saying it, Jason, for almost 2 years now.
Right, Joe, but what if it breaks and the CPI goes up to 11% or something? I mean,
yeah, that's what I said.
What do you do? You have to raise the rates.
The amount of layoffs is going to have to be so huge, because when it breaks, all of a sudden you're going to see everybody laying off in mass all at once, which is exactly what they're not hoping for. What they want is, man, if we just do this little bit, because they're pretending to fight inflation. Go back to the 70s. You know how many meetings they had where they raised rates 3% and 4% in one meeting? Not basis. Why not, 0.75%? Think about now. We're acting like 0.75% some big deal. When you have at-home food, and this is the government's number, 13%. So at-home food prices are probably up 25%.
Yeah, Joe.
The Federal Reserve should be raising rates 3% in a single meeting. They're not, because you know what, Jason? They know, well, that would definitely end the house of cards.
I saw a number, I think it was yesterday I was looking, 38% of employed people are looking for job number 2. And then another 14% above that are looking for job 3, job 4, or more right now. So, Joe, if they get these jobs, the unemployment levels, like I said, that they've created an unemployment, the numbers that they use, Joe, to make it look always better than it is. I think their own system of how they calculate jobs is actually working against them. I think we could have lots of unemployment, but because how the numbers are cooked, it's not going to show up the way they need it to show up as fast as they want it to, Joe. So I mean, 38% of people that have a job are looking for job number 2, and another 14, so up to 52% are looking for another job, 14% of which are looking for job 3 or 4 or more. I mean, as long as there's part-time jobs out there, Joe, I guess it's going to be hard to bring unemployment down.
There's a word circulating out there that what happened on Friday with the Japanese yen, and remember the Dow was getting ready to take a big beating, made this big rally. There's a story out that the Federal Reserve, the White House, along with the Bank of Japan, the Bank of the ECB, the UK, all these central banks, along with the Wall Street Journal. I don't know. I guess remember the Fed whisperer guy, that saying, "Oh well, the Fed may pause this." They were all working in concert Friday. Apparently, we were moments away again from another major crisis. So think about it, and again, how much longer until one of these crises brings everybody to their knees? 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour, final segment coming up. 800-951-0592, the roll-arounds and the 1/10 ounce gold eagle. We still got just a handful of those left at $810 today. Just call up. Connie or Brittany can help you there. Jason, stories now breaking here about this massive intervention. And then something really interesting today. Over the weekend, Boris Johnson, nope, I'm not going to be, remember the UK Prime Minister steps down. This morning we find out, lo and behold, a former Goldman Sachs banker is now the new prime minister in the UK. And I think this was something set up on Friday at this meeting here. Well, they were trying to, you got to remember, we know that we've got problems in Japan with the yen. We've got problems in the UK with the renminbi, with the pound sterling, not to mention problems in China with the renminbi as well. But here's what's so crazy, Jason, just based on this. So we get a Goldman Sachs banker in there. Today, the UK 10-year note is down 30 basis points. Absolute insanity. But again, the bankers are like, okay, well, we at least we got a banker in charge now, so maybe things can get better for bankers.
Is this Rishi Sunak? Is that guy?
Yeah. Yep.
I had some people. I had some listeners send me some stuff on this guy like a year ago about how bad this guy is. Now, as far as geopolitical, Joe, he is a very anti-China guy. So if you're going to put up that Western versus the Eastern, the Russia-China thing, he's the perfect guy. For
a lot of talk over the weekend that China is going to be invading China, intimate invasion of Taiwan. Xi solidified his power over the weekend, and I don't know, but this is not a step in the right direction for a cooling of the relations with China for sure.
Well, they got rid of so many of those guys before Rishi got hired onto that job. It's almost like, well, this is the guy we wanted. We just put all those bad guys in front of you the last months just to show you that we have to end up with this guy. We have to have this guy, Joe. Boy, it doesn't look good. This
is one of the creepier things that I've seen, without a doubt. This is a guy, I've never heard of this guy. I mean, he's been in the background. I shouldn't say I've never heard of him, but nobody ever talked about this guy being prime minister. And then all of a sudden, oh, look at this fiasco. Look at this problem. Oh, give it to this guy.
Yeah, it's got a little shades of Barack Obama to it, Joe.
Sure, hey, you said it, not me. Gold's up 2 right now, 16.52. Silver's up almost 15 cents here, $19.20. The Dow up 388 points, right? Because, hey, we got another Goldman Sachs guy in the fold.
Got 2 weeks till that election, Joe, and I'm really interested to see what's going to happen on November 9. November 8th, the election, Joe. What's November 9 going to bring? November 10, those last couple of days of the week after the election. I just feel like all those guys that are putting their money in to prop it up till this election, aren't they just going to pull it all the first day they can, which will be November 9? The overnight, let's just face it, some guys can pull it out in the overnight. I don't get the feeling there's going to be a huge, down 500 to 1,000 points on Wednesday the 9th, and maybe all the way through the rest of the week, Joe. I mean, how bad do you think that week might end up?
You know what? I just want things to go well. And I just don't see how. And it just depends. I mean, I think the Republicans win both, and then then the Democrats are going to try to blame them for what comes after. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see. Patriot Radio News Hour. We're wrapping up.